Hey there, it's Carrie here at Get Your Vibe Right, and I am an energy practitioner. So I practice a modality called the Body Code, and I am particularly focused on helping people release their emotional charge, or a lot of times we call it baggage, right? And we have that in our lexicon for a reason. Emotional baggage. We know that we carry things forward from the past. We know that oftentimes our current struggles are because of past experiences and because we haven't fully processed something that happened to us. We didn't run through all of the emotions. Either we didn't get the chance to do that, or it's not something we could face at the time. And so we ended up carrying that charge, that emotional vibration along with us. And every once in a while, it gets triggered. Something happens and we have a reaction to something that's happening in the moment, when in reality, it's more about something we didn't fully process in the past. And so in this system called the Body Code, we can look for what Dr. Bradley Nelson, who developed the modality, calls trapped emotions. And there are various kinds of trapped emotions. There are trapped emotions that we have from our past experiences that we were unable to process at the time. We have shared trapped emotions where an emotion is vibrating in us and it's also vibrating in someone else at the same time, and they're sort of locked in this vibratory connection that makes it very hard for us, even if we do all of the processing work, to fully release that, because it's existing essentially in two places at once, and that is in resonance with each other. There's also another kind which is called absorbed trapped emotion, which is where that doesn't necessarily come from my life experience, but maybe I either spent a lot of time around somebody who resonated at that level. So let's say worry, for example, or anxiety. If I spend a lot of time around, or maybe I grew up in a house where I was often in the same space as somebody who worried a lot, had a lot of anxiety, even though I'm not experiencing events in my life that are creating that vibration or that energy, that emotion, I am absorbing it from somebody else. There's another way of absorbing emotions that aren't necessarily ours, and that is through empathy. We witness someone, and here's one that you might be able to relate to: shame, for example, or humiliation. If you've ever been in a situation where you've witnessed somebody who has had something happen to them and they felt humiliated, or they felt shame in public, something happened, and you feel that in your heart, you feel it deep inside of you, you can actually take on that energy from their experience. So there's another one that we don't often talk about, but I think that maybe we all kind of know deep inside of us is actually a thing, and that's inherited trapped emotions. So in this system, we're able to identify emotions that get attached to us, for lack of a better word, that get attached to our energy field from our parents. So we are all incredibly complex beings. We all are a soup of certain emotions walking around, and our parents are no different. Our parents had lives before they had us. Many of them experienced grief. Many of them experienced anger. Many of them experienced self-abuse, which are negative thoughts about ourselves, that internal inner critic that's often hard to shut down. And those emotions can actually be passed to us even before we're born. And those emotional patterns, that emotional vibration, can go back generation after generation after generation. I've had clients where I've found this energy has been passed down through 14 generations of humans. One to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Imagine how powerful that emotion is when it comes to you. And here's the thing, is that when you're born, you're already vibrating at that level. Why does that matter? Well, I've talked about it in some of my other videos, and I even have a great video where I demonstrate with tuning forks how this idea of resonance happens. And it's because the universe seeks harmony. It wants resonance, and it doesn't necessarily discern between a low vibrational harmony and being in harmony at a low vibration or being in harmony at a high vibration. So if you vibrate somewhere on the scale of, let's say, taken for granted, that's one of the emotions in the body code. And if you are vibrating at taken for granted when you come into the world, you are going to sync up with people who will take you for granted. It's harmony. If you came into the world vibrating at grief, for example, then you might experience grief at a much greater depth than other people. People might not understand why something affects you so much, why you feel something so deeply, or why it hits you so hard. It's because you came into the world already vibrating at that level. They possibly did not. And so they don't experience it the same way you do. When you go into resonance with that emotion, it rings louder. That's the way you can think about it. So if you come into the world inherited an emotion, then it's something like worry is one that a lot of people, or maybe guilt. You just have a lot of guilt. You feel a lot of guilt about a lot of things, and other people seem to just, I don't feel guilty about it. That's fine. I'm going to either say no to that, or I'm going to do that thing, or I'm not going to do that thing. And I had no feelings about it whatsoever. You harbor a lot of guilt. You hold on to it. And it doesn't always make sense. And the reason it doesn't always make sense to you, or why you struggle so much with it, and you can't really find a place to put it, it doesn't make sense in the context of your life experiences, because it's not yours. You inherited that, or maybe you absorbed that. And so those things don't come from your life experiences, so it seems like we have a really hard time working through them. We have a really hard time contextualizing them, making sense of them, looking back in our life experience and saying, oh, actually, I think it comes from that traumatic experience, why I always feel so anxious all the time, or more anxious than other people. But when it's inherited or absorbed, remember, it doesn't come from your real life experience. So it's hard to draw the parallels between something that's happened to you and this seemingly out of proportion emotional experience that you have sometimes when that particular emotion gets triggered. So anyway, this is just, I know I kind of went on here for a while, but these are just the kinds of things that I help people with. And this is why I love the body code so much, because it will find these energies that don't come from our life experiences that sometimes are really tripping us up or holding us back, and we can't figure out why. And sometimes if we can't get to the root of why we're struggling with that, it's very hard to clean it up and clear the blocks so that we can move forward. Working with a practitioner like me can identify those blocks even when they don't come from your life experience, and we can eliminate that energy from your energy field, essentially clearing those blocks and allowing you to move forward and no longer be triggered in that old way or be inhibited by some kind of fear that you might have. So this is just a very quick description of one small element of the body code, and why I love it so much, and how it might be able to help you in your life feel better, move forward on things, and gain some understanding about why you might be struggling. So if you enjoyed this, I'm planning on doing more videos around the body code, trying to explain it and trying to help you. And at least I hope it gave you some relief in knowing that sometimes when you're struggling so much and you can't put your finger on why, it's not always because it's about you.